check this. This is the hard knock life, but not the chica kind. More like the people in the world seeking perspectives with a different line. The kids who share their interests together with a similar kind. When they said Don Glover for Spider-Man, they didn't mind. The activists, directors, comments and the lectures, fanboys, professional artists and...
Alright, you are watching Hard Knock Life. I'm your host, Keith Chow. Welcome to our special post-San Diego Comic-Con recap extravaganza. I'm joined by three awesome guests who I got to meet in person for the first time ever. Twitter people are real. And we're going to kind of debrief our experiences and times in San Diego last week. And you guys who haven't had a chance to go to Comic-Con can live vicariously through us. So I want to introduce first our returning champion, our own nerd of color, who was representing Black Girl Nerds at Comic-Con this year. Welcome back, Connie Gibbs.
Yo, that's me.
Who got your first San Diego Comic-Con experience?
Yeah, I have never left the East Coast before, so to have it be San Diego Comic-Con was awesome. It was a great introduction to West Coast life.
You didn't want to come back, right?
I didn't, and I literally left straight from the convention. Our other guest, Robyn, knows firsthand. We left straight from the convention, and so it was just like, okay, we have 5 minutes until it closes, and I also have to make my flight, so let's look around one more time.
Yeah. And if anyone's ever been on any convention floor, much less San Diego's convention floor, navigating one spot to the other is nearly impossible, especially when everyone's kind of scrambling. So.
Yeah, scrambling for the exit.
Well, I'm glad you had a good time, your first San Diego Comic-Con. I'm glad you enjoyed it. But yeah, you did mention your partner who was with you. She's joining us from the website Black Girls Nerd Out. You know her as Robyn Ravenclaw on Twitter. Please welcome to Hard Knock Life for the very first time, Robyn Jordan.
Look, Mom, made it! Oh, wow. I'm a big deal now. Hi.
So you also, this was not your first San Diego Comic-Con, is that
I'm
correct?
an old San Diego Comic-Con head. San Diego's actually my hometown, so like Connie mentioned, we stayed at my mom's house. My mom dropped us off at the airport. My parents picked us up and dropped us off every day. It's my hometown con. So it's different. Every year it's bigger and bigger and bigger, but not my first.
Is it safe to say this was the best Comic-Con?
This was my first time really as like a professional. Like I'm actually doing more than just consuming and spending all of my money. So it was maybe not the best because I have met Matt Smith at a con before, but it was like the most rewarding.
But you never met us before, and that's what I was thinking.
Exactly. I told Connie, I was like, so many friends. It's actually really funny, too, because then you meet people, and they're like, oh, I'm Keith. And I'm like, I don't know who that is. And then you're like, at Real Chow. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that was definitely a theme this weekend of people introducing themselves and kind of like giving each other side-eye until you revealed your Twitter handle. And it was like, oh, my God, we're best friends forever. Rounding out our panelists of Comic-Con goers this week is a reporter for Nerd Reactor. She also was an internet friend who became a real friend in real life. Please welcome Laura Siracool.
Hey guys, I actually write for other sites as well, but Nerd Reactor is one of my station sites.
You are there in a pro capacity and a press capacity, and I think of the four of us, I was following you on Twitter and Facebook. You were hanging out with all the celebrities. What was that all about?
No, those are all just press rooms and just going to events, so it's nothing, not a big deal. No.
So let me start with you, Laura. Since you were there covering it in an official capacity, as you said, you were at a lot of the press tables, and I know that so was Robyn and Connie. But I wanted to get your kind of your take on some of the news that dropped out of San Diego Comic-Con of all of the announcements and press avails that you were a part of. Which stuck out the most for you?
And you mean in Hall H in general? Because that's exciting news anyway. Always Hall H, but or in the press rooms.
Anyway, I mean, whichever of the announcements and conversations you were able to have stood out the most for you this week.
I kind of know who survives The Walking Dead.
Oh!
Oh, snap.
I don't know who died, but I know who survived.
Well, process of elimination.
Yeah, just by talking to some of them, I was just like able to like, and they were just like, "Oh crap!" I'm like, "No, don't worry, don't worry, I won't say anything."
It's concealed.
Will AMC have your head if you let it slip with
Yeah,
us?
maybe I'll never be able to work with them again, so I need to. I mean, it's gonna go to my grave or until when the season comes on in
I guess
October.
you can maybe give us a thumbs up or we can't see you. Never mind.
Oh no.
I was gonna say wink if his name rhymes with Flen.
I can't say that, but I can only tell you that Rick is like I'm only allowed to say Rick is alive. I'm only allowed to say that.
Oh, you are allowed to say that.
Everyone else I can't. I'm not. I can't like because I talked to some of them and I was able to get some info out. So I'm like, okay, that person's still alive.
Using your investigative journalism skills.
But yeah, other than that, the news, like mainly it's always the news in Hall H that I'm always excited about when I hear about it. But other than that, like shows can't really tell you things. So when Hall H makes announcements, it's always exciting. I kind of think of what's exciting that's breaking news. It's every time I'm at events, like I always try to weasel information out, so it's really hard to like know what's new and what's breaking.
Well, I know that Connie, you were also there in an official capacity in the press rooms for Black Girl Nerds as their TV editor. So you posted your first Comic-Con report just the other day, being in the Luke Cage room. What was your sense of one, the Netflix and Marvel announcements, as well as just kind of being able to talk to the creatives behind Luke Cage?
Well, I will say that the creative team behind Luke Cage really, really impressed me. They were, obviously the showrunner, Cheo Hodari Coker, he's a music journalist and really infused music into the show, but also like really took his time to like really show Harlem, and you can tell how much he and it's spread through the rest of the cast of how much they really care about the show and care about the characters and where they're going, just from the way that they were talking about them. So it was really great to meet them and get to chat with them about the show, because they, were able to expound upon their ideas about the characters so well, where it's like you ask them one question and they just kind of went on, and you're like, tell me more. I want to know more. I also got 2 episodes of Luke Cage. I want it to be September 30th, so I can skip ahead to the episode that's after the one that they stopped us with. So the show's really, really done well, and it was really great to actually be in the room where it happens.
Nice.
I had to throw one in there.
Oh yeah, we're gonna keep track of them.
We'll just have like a tally mark on the screen. But it was really great to meet the cast and to see them interact as regular people, just because when you know that a cast like actually likes each other, it kind of shows in their show and in their chemistry and things like that. So they're chill people, they're cool, they like each other, and it shows in their performances. I also got to go to the Luke Cage panel, which I've never been to a live Marvel panel before, and let's just say everything they say about a Marvel panel is accurate. It was exciting. Jeff Loeb, the head of Marvel Television, came out, and Jon Bernthal was there, so everyone started screaming because he came out just as a surprise. It was Punisher's here! They showed us clips, and the cast came out, and they showed us the a little clip of Iron Fist, and then they showed
Excuse me, I have something in my throat.
Is something off?
No, I don't know what that was. I'm sorry.
You don't have anything to say?
It's catching on.
I saw the silence, and I just plowed through. But they showed us that. It was, it was a clip. And then they showed us. I don't understand how. Well, actually, I do, because of what we wanted and didn't get. But it's just really funny to me how. So all the Luke Cage stuff had us super excited. They showed the clip of Iron Fist, and they were like, okay. And then they literally only showed us. You're right. They literally only showed us the title card for Defenders, and like we all started screaming. They were like, "Okay, we have one more thing to show you," and people went out of their minds. Like we're all like, "Ah, it's happening! Oh my gosh, what are they going to show us?" And then it was just like a title card for Defenders, and we were all still like so hyped. So Marvel really knows how to put on a show.
Well, that they do. I mean, one of the, as much as Marvel. Or at least as much crap I give Marvel, at least in recent months, they do definitely know how to put on a show. Robyn, were you able to attend any of the Hall H or Ballroom 20 panels, and which one stood out for you?
So I actually, are we gonna do this?
Yeah. Go for it.
We're gonna do it. All right, we're gonna do it. So I actually have never done Marvel's Hall H. I stay far away from it, and then Ballroom 20, like. Orphan Black, for some reason, wasn't in Ballroom 20, which made no sense to me. So I stayed away from Ballroom 22. I was in line with Connie for a while, and then I was like, wait, the Expanse panel is happening. Why? I don't care about the CW. So I left her. But we did get into Hall H for Con Man, which was something that I was really excited about because I really wanted to see. I love Con Man. I love Alan Tudyk and Nathan Fillion. And I wanted to see it, but I didn't want to go through Hall H to do it. And so we we walked up, and they had cut, they cut the line, or the space where people, enter the convention, so that people in the shoots can enter Hall H. And so this was around 10 or so. Like we got there at like 10, and like at 10:20, somehow me and Connie were in Hall H. We didn't feel it. This is like the Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead day. Like they capped the line at like 7 p.m. the night before. Like people had been out there, like camping out and doing the work. And we walked up, thought we were doing a shortcut, followed some people that we thought were doing a shortcut, and we were in the hall way ahead of anyone else. And we didn't do it on purpose. But I did stay for the Con Man panel, and I was so excited because Nathan Fillion is a national treasure. Alan Tudyk is amazing. Lou Ferrigno, I have no idea what he said. Like 99.9% of the time he said anything. I didn't understand it, but I was here for it. And Felicia Day was in that panel. I saw that panel at WonderCon, and I've seen it at Comic-Con last year, which is such a great panel. And they just are, like Connie said, with Luke Cage and stuff, when you know that they're friends and they hang out and they're having fun, it just makes it so much better. So that was my only Hall H experience this year. I usually will plan out if I'm going to do Hall H or not, and it's usually got to be because Benedict Cumberbatch is there, Tom Hiddleston's there, and I stay far away from Marvel. As much as I love Marvel, the line and the people and the smells and it's a lot. That was my only Hall H experience this year.
So back to you, Laura. I saw you I was kind of teasing you earlier about your schmoozing with some of the celebrities at Comic-Con. Can you talk about? I saw you with the cast of The Flash. What was that about?
Oh yeah, so I went to the CW BuzzFeed event, and a whole bunch of the CW and even Supergirl, because she's part of the new CW. They're all just there hanging out and just chatting with everyone, and it was cool. It was cool. And they were all really nice. They were all talking to everyone that was there, and I felt really bad because I saw a lot of people bombarded them, but I was like, no, I just need one photo and a signature, and I'm good. And it was just cool talking to them. I talked to Carlos about his music, and I gave them the idea. I've been pushing for it for a long time. I've been advocating for The Flash the musical, or some kind of or lip sync battle against the Supergirl cast. They need to do something with that musical talent. So I've been pitching it like crazy. And Carlos said, well, there's no way that we could do something musical because of how the show is. And I was just just do a dream sequence. Just do something where you show.
It. I refuse to watch The Flash, but if Jesse L. Martin is singing, I will tune in. I will be the first one there.
He did
So-
sing last season. So
Yeah.
Jesse did sing last season. So I'm
Oh,
hoping they get
wow.
Carlos.
So Laura, what you should have done is you should have had the Nerds of Color primed on your iPhone, and be like, oh, you don't know how to do it? Here, Keith Chow's already written it, because I had a post last year about how because of all the musical talent across all of the CW DC shows, whether it's Supergirl, Arrow, Flash, and Legends of Tomorrow, all of them have like many singers from other walks of life within the show, including Jon Barrowman. Of course, Grant Gustin, so many people, they pull some from Broadway for so many of the roles. So there's actually a way to do it. There's a character named Music Meister, who his whole metahuman power is to make other people sing. And Daveed Diggs, he's not doing Hamilton anymore. I'm just saying, if he needs a role in the DC universe, the Music Meister would be perfect. So yeah, if you have Carlos's email,
Marvel guy.
Wait, how? That's his power. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna rob a bank. I'm gonna make you all sing.
Yeah, pretty much. That's. I didn't say he was a good supervillain.
Did you guys ever watch Buffy? One More Time with Feeling, there was a demon whose whole thing was that you would sing and dance yourself until you combusted, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
And it was great.
Yeah, the musical episode is definitely a staple of the fantasy genre. So I mean, there are definitely ways. In fact, my only brush with like people of import from the TV world was I just happened to run into Marc Guggenheim at the DC booth, looking at his own like Green Arrow action figures in the shelf, and I just started talking to him. I did not talk about certain characters who may or may not have passed away on the show, but I did ask him about a musical episode, and he said that no one on his shows sing, so I needed to talk to the people on the Flash and Supergirl.
Okay, sure. That's
Yeah,
a
whatever.
lie. They literally
look-
sang at their panel, but okay.
I know, right? And like the same day, they were singing King George over at the Arrow panel, but whatever.
Emily raps too. Emily, she was rapping at one of the events before, like a Paley Fest event, and I was just like, oh, she raps too. What? It could be like a whole CW musical thing. And Arthur Darvill from Legends and Doctor Who, he sings like musicals.
He was in one. He was on Broadway.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't know why they're not utilizing them.
Yeah, they're all singers. I mean, like I said, they pull from Jon Barrowman is their like main bad guy across all 4 shows. Anyway, I don't want to get too much of a tangent about how the CW needs to do a musical crossover. If you need to, it's on the Nerds of Color. I did want to talk about one other thing though. The reason I brought up the Flashcast, and Connie, I'll talk to you about this a little bit. Grant got in a little bit of trouble during Comic-Con. And he's since he left Twitter. He left Twitter the way Leslie Jones left Twitter. Like, it's still there, but he's not really like responding to people anymore. Were you aware of what happened? Can you kind of fill us in for those of us who may not be aware?
I lost the beginning of it, and then there were a lot of deleted tweets, and then he sort of walked it back, and I'm like, okay, I'm still Team Grant. He didn't say anything terrible, but it was basically, he, I guess, replied to someone who was like, oh, because of white privilege, white people benefit from racism. And then he was like, no. Grant was like, no. I grew up in like a loving community, and I don't have that experience. So how are you calling your racist? And it sort of spiraled from there with like lots of like back and forth tweets. And then he deleted all the tweets and then posted like a little screenshot of a message where it's just like, look, I am really shy. I don't know how to talk about big issues like this. I haven't found my voice yet. Please, like, I'm sorry, and let's move on. Love above all else. So that's the gist of what I got. He was tweeting a little bit yesterday about like the Democratic National Convention. So I don't know. It's just like a weird. He doesn't understand his privilege yet, but
Right.
I feel like he's open to understanding that he has it. He just didn't really
Know how to articulate it.
Yes, he didn't really know how to
Yeah.
articulate it yet. And I mean, I get it, because even people of color experience times when they don't know how to support a big issue and they kind of stay silent. And I feel like that's a lot of what it was, where a lot of
Right.
people in his mentions also were, you know how especially when you have as many fans as Grant Gustin does, people on Twitter are like, haha, he's a racist, blah, 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 and like kind of taking it too far when the person who was engaging him from MTV News was trying to educate him, but also just trying to have like a back and forth. But when have that many followers and fans, I'm sure you only see the barrage of people being awful to you. So it kind of spiraled from there. I don't think he said anything terrible. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't like all lives matter kind of thing. And I feel like he is intelligent and open to criticism, and he has lots of black people on his show to help him out, hopefully.
That was kind of part of it, too, I think. I feel like, just from what I was able to capture, just, trying to find the deleted tweets and the screenshots. It was a lot of the piling on, I think, came from certain kind of fandoms, too. Like, there were people who are, like, super Ezra Miller fans, or like, ha, ha, ha. And then, it was definitely a weird kind of amalgamation of all different types of people kind of smelling blood in the water in a way.
Yeah, I was just saying that's kind of a thing that I've noticed happening across all things in Twitter and stuff, is that we have these people now that, we all go through that journey of self-discovery and learning about the world and what privilege is and what it isn't, and where you have privilege and where you don't, and learning the, intricacies of how to speak about it even, and just kind of finding your political and social point of view. But now we have people finding that on Twitter, and or like in the age of social media, where you don't, like, either, for one, you're in the middle of this journey and you have a lot of followers and you have a lot of influence, and it's really dangerous. I don't want to, there are some people that I could name names that, but, they don't fully understand their influence, and they also don't fully understand the topics that they're wading into, and that becomes really murky. And then you also have people who just haven't been exposed yet, and yet are expected to be these centers of, like, knowing things, and I think a lot of people don't really give them the time and space to, like, mature into their worldview, like, if it's the first time you've heard of privilege or intersectionality or whatever, it's bumpy when you're learning about these new, or you're being exposed to these new things, and it's not that Grant, I think, was unwilling to be exposed to it, but he's figuring it out, and it's hard when you're figuring it out with mobs of hundreds of people yelling at you. So,
yeah, that's an excellent point. Laura, I know that you need to bounce pretty soon. Can you talk a little bit about what your favorite moment from like, whether it was a panel, whether it was an interview, whether it was a party with fellow nerds? What was your?
I was meeting you guys. It was actually meeting you guys because I've been talking to you guys for over a year, and it was pretty cool to meet you guys. So you guys beat the Flash, meeting the Flash and everyone.
Wow. Thanks to us, yes.
No, you know what? Honestly, it's the news that we gain. Like, I really love watching the Wonder Woman trailer because it feels like the year of the woman, because well, for some stuff, like, I see a lot more women in comics, and I got to talk to some of the women involved in comics, and there was a lot more announcements regarding more women of color writing in comics as well. Yeah, and it was really great. And then I got to meet who was on your panel, Jean Yang, who I'm a huge fan of. It's nice to finally see a Comic-Con that's kind of opening slowly but surely opening up to nerds like us. So there's more. I see a little bit more women interaction and a little bit more people of color, like Black Panther panel, and it was nice. It was refreshing to see that versus my first time at Comic-Con like years ago. So it was a nice change, and just to see the process of seeing more and more like people of color and identity. So every time there's an interview, I get to, like, there's person of color, I'm like, okay, I need to talk to them. I need to go through this panel. And so, yeah, so I don't know. It's just nice to do. My favorite thing was just seeing more of the changes, and that Wonder Woman trailer was just so good. And I actually was surprised about the Justice League. I actually enjoyed that as well, trailer, the little teaser.
Oh, yeah.
and I really appreciate. I got to interview, talk to the DC people and the Marvel people, and I really feel like DC is really trying with diversity within comics and within their like entertainment spectrum.
Right.
So, because I've been coming to Comic Con for a long time, I really like seeing the change. So my favorite thing was meeting you guys, but also seeing. Like, it's such a big difference in changes. It's like, oh, finally I see changes from the first time I cosplayed 10 years ago.
Thank you, Laura, for taking some time out to speak with us about your Comic-Con experiences. Hopefully we can do another episode with you where you'll join us to talk more about all the various topics that we do here at the Nerds of Color.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thanks for having me, you guys. I'm so glad to have met you guys. I'm really, like, I've been following you guys online and seeing the issues that you guys been doing, so I really appreciate that, and I really enjoyed talking to you guys and just getting to know you.
The feeling is definitely mutual, so we'll catch you on the other side.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
Bye, Laura.
Bye, Laura.
Bye, guys.
I wanted to kind of expand a little bit on the point Laura was just making about, I haven't gone to every Comic-Con. I've only been to 3. This was my second in a row. But I did feel like of all of but I have been to, different shows around the country. And I did feel like for the first time, this was one where it was kind of, I wouldn't say focused, but there was definitely something in the air. She mentioned, Connie talked about Luke Cage, but Laura mentioned the Black Panther panel. We also had, the just diversity all around. One of the one takeaway for me was I was part of the Black Lives Matter, Black Heroes Matter flash mob photo op that David Walker organized, and there was just something palpable in the air about this kind of embracing of inclusion and diversity in this comic space, because of those of us who kind of tweet and write about our favorite nerd loves, whether it's Black Girl Nerds, Nerds of Color, or Black Girls Nerd Out, like there's a reason we write about it from the perspectives that we do, and it felt like for the first time at a Comic-Con at least, and maybe Robyn, this is a question more geared for you since you've been a veteran of multiple Comic-Cons. This felt like I heard someone say like this is one of the blackest Comic-Cons he's ever been to because of like things like Black Panther and Luke Cage and the BLM flash mob. So like what was your experience for this year versus like previous years?
I mean, it definitely was. There was something in the air. I have gone to. It's been a good amount of time going to a lot of like diversity panels and things like that. When I'm at Comic-Con, this was the first time too. I'm still mad about it, guys. I'm not over it. I didn't get into the Women of Marvel panel, and I'm upset as hell. It was in a bigger room. There was a line wrapped around. Mm-hmm. Last year, I walked in. Right before it started, it was, in like the 25s. If you guys, like how the cons go, the rooms are of differing sizes and things. But they had just announced Roxanne Gay writing for the new Black Panther spinoff. And they, I think what we're seeing more now is this immediate reaction from these brands that we love so much. Like Marvel announces Riri Williams, and I think they expected to get like a ticker tape parade, but the big people on Twitter were like, "That's all right. I mean, if you say so." But like, where are the women of color writers? And their Comic-Con was actually the first place where I went to like, we need diverse comics panel. I was still in high school, and I was like, oh, Black people write comics too, and Black women write comics. Like that's insane, to me. It was the first time I'd ever like seen David Walker, and then this year I got to like talk to him, and he gave me a Black Lives Matter sticker, and he was at the BGNOC meetup, and like, yeah, it's like and I think that there was definitely something in the air, something different that was like we not only are we here, I feel like. Years before it was like, hey, we exist, we like your stuff too. This year it was like, yeah, we're here and you need to do right by us, or you need to learn and grow the same way that we are learning and growing as a society.
Right.
So like the sense of like empowerment, I think that fans of color had, as opposed to just being like, oh look, we're allowed to be here and we're not being like ostracized or not being side-eyed because it's not, we don't look like the typical fanboy. which I think was the feeling in the past. I feel like even last year it was just a lot of like, oh, look at us, hey guys, you know, like we're
Right.
and this year it was like, yeah, let's not only look at us but listen to us, you know what I mean? And there was like actionable power in what we were saying and like things being changed, and I think that
Right.
people felt really empowered by that and really hopeful. You know, I don't want it to sound like we were all just like really angry about everything, but like very hopeful about the changes that are being made, and hopefully will continue to be made, because I think there's some Marvel shows that, you know, didn't, you know, but
I'm feeling something in my throat come up again. I don't know what it is.
but yeah,
No, I think you know, the point that you made about like diversity usually being relegated to like the backroom panels in the past, I think is a really good point, because I think for the first time, because of Luke Cage, because of Black Panther, because of the DC slate of movies and their directors, we you know,
We
there
were in
was
Hall
talk of inclusion and diversity in Hall H, in Ballroom 20.
Mm-hmm.
Those used to be the rooms that you didn't talk about that stuff, right? Because, like, you know, there were you know, the diversity panel, oh, you're in the wrong room. That's like 3 doors down, right? But we're here talking about XYZ TV show.
That's
But
3
now,
doors down at 7 p.m. after you've walked the exhibit hall and it's closed and you've
right, exactly. But this was the first time, because of Black Panther, you know, you had Ryan Coogler talking about Black Lives Matter at Hall H panel. And, you know, one thing that struck out for me was, you know, I didn't get into any Hall H panels or Ballroom 20 or anything, actually. I don't know why I was even at Comic-Con. But I did watch the videos on YouTube like everybody else.
Yeah.
And one of the things that struck me was when, you know, Laura brought up the DC movies. And, you know, Connie knows this especially, but, like, I was not a fan of Batman vs. Superman, let's just say that.
Really? You're the only one.
And, you know, but yeah, I was smitten by the Justice League trailer, and I was in love with the Wonder Woman trailer. But one of the things that struck out for me was when DC had a special panel where all of their directors came out, and, you know, of course Zack Snyder, but then Patty Jenkins came out, Rick Famuyiwa came out, James Wan came out, and Ben Affleck came out, and it was like, whoa, you know, their first 4 movies in their DC universe, there's a black man, a white woman, and an Asian man as the directors. And the funny thing is, like, Rick and James both said, Rick, this was his first Comic-Con ever, and James had said, you know, he's done a lot of horror films. He's like, oh, I've been at Comic-Con many, many times. This is my first time in Hall H. And it's just something about that struck me, that, like, you know, this idea that, like, we've always been relegated to, like, the small rooms, but now we're in the main hall talking about our films and our projects. You know, I don't know. There was definitely something different in the way things have been presented this year as opposed to last year. So how about you, Connie? Since this is your first Comic-Con, and what was your impression of, like, the way, you know, people of color and diversity was kind of, I mean, it wasn't even just like people were kind of just talking about it as a trend. It was just kind of in the air.
Mm-hmm. So I agree with everything you guys have been saying. There is a ripple effect that I guess is happening. So usually it's like we get diversity and we get Riri Williams. So it's like we have a new character and she's black, great, but it's still being written by a white person. But then we get Wonder Woman and it's being actually being directed by a woman. Oh my goodness. Or Luke Cage is actually being showrun by a black man. And so I feel like that the level of diversity is finally spreading very slowly behind the camera. In ways that are very important, because what was really important to me about Luke Cage is that that show would be 10 times different if it weren't black people behind the production, because yes, a white person can, like, write black people and it happens and Orange is the New Black is a thing. So but there's more authenticity when a black writer is behind it. There's more safety, because when you go into a show where a black person has had, like, actual hands in the production,
right,
behind the scenes, that your life are going to be presented fairly and accurately in a way that makes you feel like, okay, I'm into this. I can trust that this isn't gonna go on some left field, you know. But one thing I did experience, and it's just so funny to me, it's just so interesting, is that so we've gotten this ripple effect to, like, finally the creative teams are becoming slowly more diverse. But in terms of press discussing these shows, it's still not great. So Luke Cage is a black show. it is a black show. It is just so black. I don't, and it is also a superhero show. So the balance of who's covering that show should be a bit more equal than what I saw. And I won't name any outlet names, but there are some people who, when we were in the press room for Luke Cage, and they turned to me and said, "So I see the showrunner and I see the star. Are any of the other actors here?" I'm sorry. That's Alfre Woodard. That's Mahershala Ali. He just got an Emmy nomination. That's Mo missing. We were not only given like information about these people, and not only are they famous in their own right, but maybe just not just in the black community. I mean, Mahershala Ali just won an Emmy for House of Cards, or like nomination for House of Cards. But like
Alfre Woodard was just in Civil War.
Alfre Woodard was just Alfre Woodard.
Yeah, and Alfre Woodard is Alfre Woodard. I mean, come on.
Right.
Can we just say
so
that the publication that she's not naming, they need to hire me, and I'm here. Hi.
Yeah, well, that's definitely true.
Like,
there definitely needs to be more representation there.
Room was, I don't know, I didn't actually count how many people were like from the different outlets, but say it was one person per chair, and there were maybe 4 or 5 tables and 4 people at the table. So that's 25 people. There were maybe 3 outlets of color. Maybe 3, maybe 4. But 3 or 4 out of 25 is not good not a good ratio, especially when it's a black show. So like, I'm glad we were in the room, and the way, I don't even know how we got in the room, because if we weren't in there, it would have been 2. It would have been, you know. And just the fact that it's so rare to see outlets where people of color are behind them in the press room discussing shows that are for our audiences. And obviously they're for every audience. Like, everybody's going to watch Luke Cage and will be able to enjoy it. But there are aspects of the show that are so in tune to black audiences and people of color that it's like, okay, so where are we in terms of covering those kinds of shows? So I feel like the ripple effect is happening, and it's very slow, but it's also, can we spread it even further to not only the creative teams, but also the people who cover these shows?
Right.
So that was sort of my big, like, oh, you don't know who these people are, but you a major outlet that you should know these things. Okay, cool. But it took us like a while to get in the room, but you get automatic access and didn't do your homework.
I think that it's important that like Black Girl Nerds is in the room and Nerds of Color is in the room now in a way that they weren't before, but it's also still important. Like, we need both, right? We need our own outlets that talk about the things that we care about day in and day out, and then talk about them through a lens that other outlets don't. But other, like the bigger outlets, and even some of these that are actually not that big, they come off as big in the nerd space, right? They've like kind of monopolized the nerd space, but they're not they're not Time or, you know, those kinds of like Hollywood Reporter, Variety. They're not these legacy places, but still they are kind of the Hollywood Reporter of Comic-Con or of
right.
And it's still important that there are people that work for them that care about diversity. You don't have to be a person of color. It'd be great, because there is something that people of color can lend to these outlets that you can't as someone that's the default. Yeah, but just being interested in diversity and telling other people's stories. I think that was something that I was in the diverse comics panel. And this also came up. I was at LeviosaCon, which is a Harry Potter con, a couple of weeks ago, which is like, if you go outside, right, and say you're a comic writer and you're writing your story set in New York, and your background is all white people of the same body type, body shape, what are you seeing when you walk outside? When you're, you know what I mean? Like, how narrow is your focus?
Right.
And that impacts everyone, right? Like, a white person in New York City should be just as disturbed by the by the lily white backdrops of New York than a person of color should, right? Because that's not reality. That's not what they go outside and see. Even if they are like a straight white man, they should at least be cognizant of the fact that when I walk outside of my apartment and go to work in Manhattan, I am not surrounded by straight white men. So this is not reflective, and I think that that's something that people, I think we're at the part of the conversation where it's like, oh, Black girl nerds get the seat at the table. Why aren't you just happy with that? And it's like, well, we still have more to do, which is, yes, we need our own safe spaces, and that's important, but we also just need you to see us everywhere, and need you to tell the truth of the matter that this is an alternate. I think someone said at the Super Asian American panel, right? Like, everything is a choice. So if you choose, an all-white cast or an all-white, that's a choice that you make, because that's not reality. You know what I mean? That's just as much fantasy as, an all-black or whatever. I don't know. So
the last thing I just wanted to say, I think the BGN, well, not the BGNOC, but like, that was the first time you two had ever met in person, or is that not accurate?
It would have been, but I made a quick jaunt to New York, and we met each other for late night pancakes and waffles. So there was the second time that we'd met in person. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, but I did think definitely one of the highlights, and we touched on it earlier with Laura, the BGNOC was the annual, and it's turning out to be annual.
I hope so. Fingers crossed. It's so great.
Yeah, Black Girl Nerds and Nerds of Color coming together. This year we had Racialicious, and thank God for Arturo from Racialicious, because he got us like the primo spot at the Hilton Bayfront this year. During the Eisners, by the way, where we gathered by the pool and hung out and met like internet people and Twitter people. I think I propose next year we should probably all wear our Twitter handles and avatars on our t-shirts or something.
We had a BGN meetup for New York Comic Con, and the space wasn't as conducive to like chatting and like the space we had. But that was someone had brought name tags, and my idea was to write your Twitter name on your name tag. But then I guess we didn't have a Sharpie or something. It didn't really work out the way that I wanted it to, and so I forgot to bring it up for this one. But next time we're gonna have name tags that have your name and your Twitter handle on it, because it's important. Yeah. It's very important. You see somebody that or like somebody who's like, oh, yeah, hi, nice to meet you. And we're all nerds and introverts and don't know how to talk to people. But then you tell them your Twitter handle, and it's like, I've been talking to you for 3 years. And it completely changes the conversation and the way that you interact with people. And it's just so funny to watch it, because, like I just said, we're all like nerdy introverts who don't always know how to socially communicate with people, but when we're on Twitter, we don't have to talk to them face to face, so we're like more comfortable and more confident in who we are, and so you build these relationships, and then you see them in person, you're like, oh, it was you this whole time. We don't have to do this
awkward nonsense small talk. We moved past that months ago. How do y'all know each other? Why is this girl in my house? And I was like, oh, we cousins, Mom. We family already.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that we should probably look into for next year, and maybe we'll do it at New York Comic Con this year too. Who knows? Some of us can make it across the country to New York Comic Con. But anyway, we could probably debrief this for the rest of our lives, or at least until next year. But so I'm going to leave it at that. I want to thank Laura Siracool for joining us earlier. You can find her on Twitter at @lsiracool. Connie, where can we find you on Twitter? And you're always on Twitter. And how about you, Robyn?
Robyn_Ravenclaw, like my house, and @WeBlack and Nerds if you just want to
you can find me on Twitter
really
at
go into some
Constar24.
deep black Potterhead magic wizardry. That's where we're at talking.
Hashtag Wizard Team, right?
Hashtag Wizard Team.
Hashtag Wizard Team.
And I'm at The Real Chow. We'll thank you for watching The Nerds of Color. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
In full color, you see me? The hard knock life. Comics, movies, and TV. hard knock life, but not the chicka kind. More like the people in the world seeking perspectives with a different line. The kids who share the interest together with a similar kind. When they said Don Glover for Spider-Man, they didn't mind. The activists, directors, comments and the lectures, fanboys, professional artists and professors. Maybe a nerd who's just like you, talking about the things that you like too. So I invite you to the NOC in full color.